The Bodacious Babes of Buzzard Bend, part take 642. Well, welcome, ladies. I reckon y'all know one another. Anybody not know someone here? Okay, well. The purpose of this here tea party is to gather information about the shooting of Calhoun Cahoots. Ladies, I've invited you all here to Miss Fanny's Fancy Flowers Tea Room for a special meeting. I knew if I asked you to come to the Black Buzzard, some of you wouldn't come, being upright and righteous and all that. Seems we got a serious matter to reckon with. A month or so ago, a stranger came to Buzzard Bend. He was a good-looking critter and had a way with the ladies, so I'm told. I wouldn't know about that myself, not being interested much in men. I got me an important job to do in this town. I ain't got time for such foolery. So it's a good thing he never tried his sweet talking on me. Not that I ever wanted him to or anything. Nope. This here star, this is all the company I'll ever need. Anyways, this stranger, well, I guess y'all figured out that I'm talking about none other than Calhoun Cahoots. He came. Cahoots. He came all the way from Cheyenne. He made himself right at home here in Buzzard Bend. He set up an office and told anybody that would listen to him that the railroad was coming to town. Got everybody all stirred up about it. Seems he stirred up some other things too. Broke a few hearts, ran up some bills, did some lying and cheating, and then disappeared. Or so we thought. So, me being the sheriff and all, I'd done me some investigating. Well, I learned a few things about Calhoun, I surely did. Seems all that huffing and puffing he did about the railroad was just that, huffing and puffing. 'Tweren't no truth to it at all. There ain't no railroad to Buzzard Bend, nor within 100 miles of this here town. I was gonna haul old Calhoun over to the jail to have us a little talk. But when I started looking for him, he was nowheres to be found. I reckon he figured out he couldn't pull the wool over my eyes. Got scared and lit out of town. They don't call me awful lawful for nothing. But the other day, I was out on the trail south of town, and I noticed the buzzard circling over the wash. You know what I mean. You know what that means. So I rode down the wash, and sure enough, I found me a dead body.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
How heartbreaking.
There weren't no doubt about who it was.
Oh my God.
It were none other than Calhoun Cahoots.
No.
What?
He'd been shot.
Oh my.
God.
Oh, Lord.
Sounds like a man's job.
You don't sound like you got much reaction to that, man.
Yep.
Now I need to get me some. Now I need to get me some facts from each one of you ladies. I want to know 3 things from each of you. How'd you get to know Calhoun? When was the last time you saw Calhoun? And do you know anybody who had it in for him? You start, Miss Kitty Buxom.
Alright. Kitty.
Well, I'm Kitty.
Kitty. My boss.
Yeah. Sure, I knew Calhoun Cahoots. Probably knew him better than any of y'all here. Okay? Like most men, he walked into my place the minute he hit town, looking for a little rest and relaxation, he said. A place to quench his thirst. If you knew what I mean. Oh, if you know what I mean. Yes, he's been on the trail to Buzzard Bend for many a days, and he was plumb wore out. But right off, I knew there was something different about him, so I told him to come up and see me sometime.
Or
Well, he did, and that's when he told me all about the railroad coming to this here part of the West, and what it would be for the Buzzard Bend. He said it could turn this one-horse town into a bussin' metropolis. Metropolis. I can see it right through how rich I could be. I can see right away how rich I could be. With all the business it would bring the Black Buzzard, so I was right proud to be the first to invest in his company to bring the railroad to town. I bought 500 shares of stock to his company. Well, 'twasn't long before he had himself all set up in an office and everything right across the street. Seems like it were just a matter of weeks before he had this whole town eaten right out of his hand. Let me pull my dress down, sorry guys. Had us all a twit about the railroad and what it would do for all of us. One day he was over in my place drinking and telling his stories about the railroad. He realized he forgot his money clip. He always carried a big wad of bills in that money clip of his. He'd become good friends by then. Oh, we'd become good friends by then, if you know what I mean. So shucks, I didn't see no harm in letting him open a bar bill. I mean, his investment company was right across the street. Or like he was gonna run out of town or anything. At least that's what I thought. So almost every day he'd be over at my place, winning and drinking with his friends, and then he started setting up his big town hall meetings right at my place. Can you believe it? And he footed the bar bill for all the drinks for everybody that came. He said it was a good way to keep the town folks excited about the railroad. I noticed that the more they drank, the more excited they got. But I didn't know he wasn't paying for all those drinks. He was putting them on his bar bill.
Stealing your money.
I'll get to that, don't you worry, honey. I didn't pay much attention to bookkeeping. That ain't my forte, as the French say. But after a couple months, I realized I weren't making as much money as I usually do. So I asked Babe, the bartender, about it. She said there weren't much money coming in these days because Calhoun was buying for everybody, but not paying for anybody. I come to find out he owed me a parcel of money. Ma'am. Sheriff, sorry.
I got you.
So I hot-footed it right over to that cheapskate's office. And what I told him, I want him to pay up. And he laughed at me. He laughed at me.
I love that you do.
The nerve of that good for nothing. He laughed at me and said, "What are you gonna do about it?" Believe that man. Well, I showed him. I drew out my little D-ringer and demanded my money. And that's when you showed up, Sheriff. You came through the door just then and wanted to know what was going on. Seems I got a little loud in my demands, and you heard us arguing. All the way down the street at Miss Franny's Fancy Flavors Tea Room, where we are right now. Where you were having yourself tea and some of those scones you fancy so much. Well, I took your advice and gave him 10 days to pay up. And that was the last time I ever saw the cheating thief. So if somebody did him in, I say good riddance. Hey, what about that bar bill? Does that mean I won't get paid? You asked who would do him in, Sheriff? Well, Dusty might have reason or two, if you know what I mean. And that's all I got to say about that.
Thanks a lot, Kitty.
Yeah, Boy, if that ain't the kettle calling the frying pan black, or whatever. Heck, he owed her enough money to paint this whole town red. That's what he always said, you know. When the railroad came to town, we paint the town red. Dream
That dress.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
dress.
knew Calhoun alright. What a man. He swept into this dried up old town and swept us all off our feet, me included. With his talk to the railroad coming, we could all see it. It was going to change our lives. It was going to bring life to this dead town. It was going to bring people, lots of men, lots of possibilities. Folks like me getting to start a new life. Families coming, houses being built, stores and schools, and maybe even another church. Why, he was the best thing that ever happened in this town. I saw the difference he made in people right away. There was more laughing and smiling going on than I'd ever seen before. And I've been here a long time. Too long, in fact.
I called him cheat son of a bitch.
I've been dancing here at the Black Buzzard ever since that two-time man of mine dumped me in this godforsaken hole and took off with a circus lady. I've been looking for a man to come along and marry me and get me out of this one-horse ever town since. But there ain't a decent man this side of the Rio Grande. At least that's what I thought till Calhoun came along. I saw him the first time he came into Kitty's place. Noticed something different about him right away. Of course, he didn't dress like nobody around here. He wore himself fancy clothes, and kept himself clean. And when you got close up to him, boy, did he smell good.
I don't know about that.
And I made sure I got close to him, let me tell you. The other girls were all over him like barflies. But I brushed them right off. Gave him one of my big smiles. How about a drink, honey? I said, and sure enough, he ordered me a sarsaparilla. Well, there were just the beginning.
On me, you owe me money. Y'all did.
I saw a lot of Calhoun after that, and he saw a lot of me. And he liked what he saw. Oh, sure, he had to be nice to the other girls too, but I was his favorite. You hear? I was his favorite, I tell you. I don't care what anybody says. He loved me. He was different than other men. He'd never leave me. Not ever. I wouldn't let him. Sure, he saw other women. He had to in order to...
What did you say? Called her a psycho bitch.
I reckon she just.
Good thing.
Yeah,
Good thing we ain't meeting in the church.
You hear this, Sheriff? Oh. He had to in order to get him to invest in his company to bring the railroad to town. I bought shares in his company too. I invested all the money I've been saving to buy me a little house on my own someday. Calhoun promised he'd buy me a house bigger and better than anything I'd ever dreamed of after we got married. Yes, we were going to get married. Anyway, that's what he said. Then I found out he weren't no different than any of those other two-timing men. I found out he'd been sweet-talking somebody else too. That low-down liar ain't nothing but a crook. He was taking me for my money and just about everybody else in town too. Tain't no wonder somebody done him in. I was waiting for my chance to tell him off, but I never got my chance. He didn't come see me dance Saturday night at the saloon, and he didn't show up for any of his meals. You see, he always ate lunch and supper at the Black Buzzard. He said he liked to give Miss Kitty the business. So I finally went looking for him, but I couldn't find him nowheres, and it seemed like nobody else in town knew where he was either. Maybe the school marm can teach us a thing or two.
I have never heard of such nonsense in all my life.
I don't believe her.
Something's wrong.
Oh,
I don't know. Dang it, I hope it was after you.
I have never heard of such nonsense in all my life. Waffle. This is awful. try Miss Fanny's tea of the month. I have better things to do with my precious time than to sit here with these low-life creatures and to be insulted like this.
She
How
must have had the bitch too.
Yeah, what the hell?
Seriously.
How dare you think that I could be misled by a
Girl, you're a teacher.
Shut up. How dare you think that I could be misled? Oh wait, I already read that part. Smooth talking man about town like Calhoun Cahoots. Just because he was highly educated and appreciated my mind doesn't mean I was fooled by him for even 1 second.
We all did him.
Oh no, not me. I saw right through him the minute he visited me at the schoolhouse. Like the gentleman he was, he waited till after school was dismissed and all my little devils, darlings, had gone home. Then he ever so gently knocked on the schoolhouse door. He didn't want to frighten me, he said, as if I would ever be frightened by any man. Nothing frightens me. I've been a school teacher for 20 years.
Looks like a
He introduced himself to me, and right away, I saw that he was trying to impress me with his good manners and social bearing. Why, he even kissed my hand. The one that wasn't holding the ruler. And when he smiled, his gold tooth flashed in the fading sunlight. I thought, oh my, what a scoundrel. Mr. Cahoot said he wanted to meet me because he heard so much about me, how I had been shaping the minds of future generations, educating our next leaders. He said I was responsible for the men and the women who become the outstanding citizens, bankers, doctors, lawyers, and chief politicians of bustling Buzzard Bend. He felt it was such an honor to meet me, and that he wanted to take me to dinner that very evening.
I know it's her.
Well, of course, I saw right through his flattering talk. But I thought I'd play along just to see what he was up to, of course. Excuse me. I could tell it might take some time for me to find out just what his scheme was, and that I might have to have dinner with him many times. Well, it was a sacrifice I was willing to make to protect this town, you see.
Sure.
It had been a while since I'd been active in the school scene, one might say. So I had to buy a few new things. That explains the rumors going around that I visited J.C. Nicholas Dry Goods Emporium. I bought a new hat and a new corset. If you must know, I began to see Mr. Calhoun on quite a regular basis. Of course, it was all on a very educational and professional.
Of course.
Anyways, Mr. Calhoun was most anxious to learn about all the children and their parents. He wanted to know all about the little dears and how much land and money their folks had for their college funds, he said. He would ask me questions and try to beguile me with his charming smile and gentleman ways. But of course, I wasn't swayed at all. I always remained completely in control of my emotions. I mean, the conversations.
Did you tell him how much money I got?
Then, just a few days ago, he had invited me for a little buggy ride. He stopped at the end of town and showed me the spot where he intended to build a new school. At a beautiful 3-room schoolhouse with separate outhouses, one for the boys and one for the girls. He was going to have the school built with windows and a big belt stove for heat in the winter. Do you know long I have been trying to get these school board cheapskates to put a new stove in that old building and try to fix that leaky roof? Well, I was thrilled, let me tell you. Not only was he going to build a new school, he was going to promote me to principal. I nearly fainted when he held my hand and told me that. I began to think I had misjudged Cahoon and understood completely why he was anxious for me to invest in his company so he could start construction on the school immediately. He was so passionate about improving education. It wasn't until later that I wondered if maybe I hadn't been so smart after all. I began to think he swindled me out of money. I tried to contact him, tell him I'd changed my mind and I wanted my money back, but he was gone. I never saw him.
Again?
Ever?
Ever?
I don't believe that.
Oh no. You all are gross.
I don't know what.
And you
I
didn't
pointed
blame
my gun at him, but you walked in. I didn't shoot him.
I don't believe any of this.
So
You fell for his lies, girls.
So does she go now or do
Abby.
you have a
She's
plan?
5.
oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Abby.
Well, shucks, guys. If old Cahoon kicked the bucket, I think we're kind of better off. I reckon. Figured if you just save somebody the job of doing him in. Seems like half the town had enough ambush to ambush him to put him in. How you say he bit the dust on? Handing him with a new rope would be too good for him in my book.
Ooh.
Well, I suppose I sound like I didn't like him. Well, you're right. Don't like him. Don't trust him one bit. And I did try to tell Pappy not to trust him either. But you guys all know Pappy. He's so good, he'd give the shirt right off his back. Only thing was, Calhoun didn't want his shirt. He wanted his land. You see? It was this way. Alright. Calhoun came riding out to the ranch one day in that fancy buckboard of his. He introduced himself to Pappy and me, and we seemed like downright nice fella. He looked good, nice man, and he did smell good. Next to him, I smelled like a horse that had been rode and hard and put away wet. I even went out to the pump and I splashed a little water on me to clean up a bit before he came in, stirred up the vitals just to get a good impression on him. Well, Cahoon visited a while and told us all about the railroad coming in. Well, then a couple nights later, he came back again. We don't get much visitors out here, but he came back just dropping by, he said, proudly. I knew. Felt better. I could see he'd taken a liking to me. Must have been that wagon grease I slicked my hair back with. I done did the trick or two with my cooking beans and the gopher meat. Shot that little critter myself, I'll tell you that. Now with your gun, mine's way bigger than yours, I'll tell you that. And I done told him I could tell he was very impressed. Well, a few nights later, came back again. Couldn't stay away from me, and I figured. So, I cooked up some rabbit stew for us all, even Pappy. Poor Calhoun was so smitten by me, he could hardly even eat. Leastways, that's what I thought. Then he invited me and my Pappy to a friendly game of cards. Texas Hold'em, he called it. He were plumb surprised when I sat down and said, "Deal me in." Guess he figured I was too purty to know how to even play poker. Slick back here, tell you that. Both Pappy and me was winning hand after hand, and I felt real sorry for Calhoun. But he was a good sport and kept on playing. Well, pretty soon though, plot twist, he started winning, and we started losing. It weren't long before I lost all my chips, and next thing I knew, Pappy was out of chips too. But Calhoun wanted to keep playing, and he egged Pappy on. Well, Pappy didn't want to be a bad sport, specifically after Calhoun hadn't given up, and when he was losing, so we kept on playing. He didn't give no more chips, but Calhoun talked him into betting 5 acres. And he lost all that.
Oh my God.
Calhoun said he'd probably win it right back. Yeah, let's take a minute for Pappy, guys. Where's the drinks?
Poor Pappy.
That's for Pappy, guys.
Pappy.
My slick back wagon grease.
Oh my God. Poor Pappy.
Poor Pappy. Just keep him in
5
mind.
acres.
Calhoun said he'd probably win it all back, but next time he bet 10 acres. We lost that too. Take a minute.
Another one?
Calhoun was laughing and Pappy was looking like a hog-tied critter. He done lost 250 acres of prime grazing land and the water
Mine
rights.
too.
Oh my god.
I can't prove it, but I knows Calhoun was cheating my Pappy. Nobody can draw 4 acres 10 minutes in a row. It just ain't right. The more I thought about it, god damn, the madder I got. I thought about going gunning for that no good card shark, but then I heard how he had just disappeared. Probably afraid of me. I figured, saw him again after that poker game. Now you tell me he's dead. Probably done in by somebody else he cheated on, I reckon.
Oh my god, your poor Pappy.
That is terrible.
Well, at least he's dead. Pappy got to keep his land.
Oh yeah.
Amen to that.
I'll drink to that.
Don't drink to that.
Cheers.
Cheers to Pappy.
There I go.
Pappy.
If you ever want to share any of that land with me, I'd be certain to take it.
You should give Pappy's little address so I can write
It could be for my school.
Oh.
You know what?
Find me a husband.
Find me.
What you got to say?
See, I knew Senor Cahoots. He came in every night to see Carlota. Carlota dance. He liked the way I shake my maracas. And I shake them real good for him. Those other girls.
Okay.
And even Miss Kitty. They think he come in to see them, but they are wrong. He come only to see a Lata Carlota.
So you I don't know what they were talking about.
Next one. I see him the very first night he come to town. I was on the stage singing my song, clicking my heels. I look out at those mangy, dusty old codgers drinking and gambling, and then I see him. He was different than the rest. He stood out there like a light shining on him. I should have known it was the light of the devil himself. But he don't look like no devil. He look handsome. He wearing a white suit and a white sombrero, and he look up at me and he smiled. And he have a gold tooth right here. And it shines like a diamond. It lights up the whole room and it light up Carlotta's heart. I finish my dance and he offers to buy me a drink. So Carlotta have a drink. And then another, and pretty soon we get to know each other pretty good. You know what I mean?
Just like the rest of these stores.
I think we all do.
He comes to see me
Don't
often.
deny it.
No,
Yeah.
He comes see me often. He tell me he bring railroad to this town. He make many people rich. He build big gambling hall and get richer too. He make Carlotta big star, not just in Buzzard Bend. He take me to big city like London and Paris and make me famous. You okay?
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
What happened?
Carlotta laughed. I do not believe him. Many men tell Carlotta many things, but they do not happen. I tell him Carlotta have money of her own to go wherever she please. I show him my money pouch full of money and diamonds other men give to me. He keep coming to see me and my heart beats faster when I click my castadas for him. Castanets for him. Then one night he asks Carlotta to marry him. He says he cannot live without me. He says we get married just as soon as the railroads come and his investments pay off. He tell me he build me big pretty house all for my own. Carlotta's so happy. I tell him we no have to wait. We get married right away. I say I give him my money till railroads give him money. He thinks that's a very good idea and he takes my money.
This awful man.
But then Carlotta is forgot by the senor. He no come see me next day or the next day. I look for him every night in the cantina, but he no come. He no at his house, he no anywhere. I never see him again. I begin to think he just like all other men. He take my money and he run. Carlotta get very, very angry. Have temper like a hot pepper. Want to rip his heart out. But we never see him again. But no Carlotta, no Forgata.
Oh.
That was great.
Well,
Sam, this is very good.
thank you.
today about dear departed Calhoun, and I think it's most unfair to speak so dreadfully about the man who can't defend, who isn't even here to defend himself. I don't know why you women would make up such awful tales about the poor man. Why, he was just the sweetest, most polite man I ever knew. Okay, let me see now. Just when was the first time I met him? Oh, I remember. It was at the Sunday Save a Soul with Sweetness Social. Try to say that time.
Y'all were there, right?
We were there too.
We ladies hold a sweet, we ladies hold a sweet social. The first Sunday afternoon of every month, you know? It's our way of reaching out to the lost and downtrodden and of Buzzard Bend. Not that Calhoun was downtrodden. Oh no, he was just the opposite. When he walked down the row of cakes and pies, he looked like an angel, all dressed up in a white, in that suit of white, or in the suit of his. He said he wanted to meet the wonderful lady in charge of such a worthwhile cause, and of course, that was me.
You're jealous. Calhoun was mine.
Oh, man.
He's got your money,
Yeah, all our money.
but he died first.
Well, he introduced himself to me and actually kissed my hand. Well, I knew right then and there that this was a real gentleman.
He's
I was-
not.
No. No, sorry.
Oh, dude.
Is someone knocking on the door?
I think it was Carlotta was tapping.
Nope, that's definitely me.
Okay, then it was Elsie or Elise.
Yep.
See.
I'm sorry.
What was it?
Oh my god!
What are you doing?
She done broke her neck. You okay, man?
Kidding.
I needed to let that
What
out.
you got in your cup over there?
I needed to let that out.
Okay, lit.
I am a Priscilla.
Lady.
I don't even remember where it was.
I know.
It's okay, ma'am. You got time.
Okay. Well, I knew right then and there that he was a real gentleman. I was so thrilled to meet his acquaintance. He was an answer to my prayers for someone with social grace to come to Buzzard Bend. Someone to have tea with at Miss Fanny's fancy flavored teas.
Where we are right now.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even wanna know
Calhoun
what you
told
did.
me why he'd come to town, about the railroad and all. He visited often and he talked about what a difference the railroad would make to the whole town. He said the church would grow and it could be the biggest busybody in town. I get chills just thinking about it. The prayer meetings, the mission meetings, the ladies' guild meetings, and the tea parties. You know how important the work of the church has been to me ever since I became Buzzard Bend from Cheyenne, where my dear husband was laid to rest. As you know, he died from pneumonia last July. God rest his soul.
Cheers to him.
Cheers to that.
comes back to life like that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Wait, he didn't die.
No, he didn't die. We
Oh.
just his lamp lasted.
For a minute.
Then one day, Calhoun asked me to go for a buggy ride with him. He said he'd been praying about it, and he left the good Lord wanted him to build a new church right down the street on that corner lot. Yes, I am prim and proper, but that doesn't mean that I have to act like it all day.
Oh.
Priscilla.
Preach.
Carlotta, please! Okay. He took me down there and I walked around it. Wait, okay.
To the land?
The land.
Yeah.
I wonder that land
That there
belonged to.
Pappy.
Uh-huh.
Well, I walked around it 7 times,
Mm.
Well, shit. Put the trap.
just like they did in Jericho.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to blow a trumpet, but he didn't want to attract too much attention. He said he didn't want anybody else to try to buy the lot before he could. It was to be our little secret.
He kept a lot of secrets, sounds like.
Damn fool, that's what he was.
He was a whore.
I'm so happy we're
Blowing
here.
trumpets.
Excuse me?
You've been labeled.
Are you talking about my dear Calhoun?
Apunta.
I indeed am.
That is a lie. Okay.
Oh.
Gabe.
Richard done fall in love.
Excuse me.
Hey man, you got that?
I don't want to hear y'all talking about my Calhoun.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Calzone, yes, me.
this man blowing trumpets.
It was just a few days later that he came to me, and he was so worried and concerned. It just broke my heart to see him so distraught. He said he learned that somebody else was going to buy the corner lot unless he came up with the money right away. And all his money was tied up in his investment company. And he couldn't come up with the cash that fast. Well, wasn't it lucky that I had just reached an inheritance from my Aunt Matilda, who had recently passed away? God rest her soul.
Rest in peace,
Rest
Matilda.
in peace, Matilda.
Yeah, my dear Aunt Matilda.
Wow, so many deaths.
Oh,
in your
she
life.
knew the Lord the way you do.
I know.
Am I out of my drink?
Oh that man.
Of course, he didn't want to take it, but I insisted. I gave him every cent, and I had to go buy the land for the new church. He promised to pay me back, and started working on the new church construction within the week. I was so excited, but that's the last I ever saw of Calhoun. And now you tell me he's dead. The tear man.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah,
Let's go, babe.
Y'all fools, you ask me.
Sure, I knew Calhoun, just like I knows every thirsty man in this town. He weren't no different than all the rest after my money. Oh sure, he dressed different and he talked a good talk, but he was a lousy tipper, tight as a string. Now, Sheriff, you tell us he's dead? Well, I ain't surprised. You can't go around taking people's money, cheating at cards, horse thieving, and blackmailing people and not getting a bullet in your back. I guess I shouldn't accuse him of horse thieving, because I don't know that for sure. But I do know he took lots of money from good, hard-working folks, like all of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right,
Amen,
Calamity.
sister.
He cheats at cards. I saw him myself more than once cheating in a card game at the saloon. And I know for a fact that he was blackmailing somebody, because that somebody was me.
Oh.
Yeah, you're all surprised, ain't you? Well, I may as well tell the whole story, because it's all going to come out in the wash sooner or later. Things always does. Ain't no use to try and stop me, Sheriff. I might as well tell everybody. You see, when I came here to Buzzard Bend, it weren't just to visit my second cousin of my nephew's brother-in-law, like I said. I came here to see Sheriff Bay Lawful, because she really is my cousin, and I needed a job. I had to been run out of town for stealing on my last job. I was bartending at the watering hole in Cheyenne. And when some money came up missing, they accused me. Now I admit, I had to borrow a bit from time to time, but I always paid it back. Well, they weren't so understanding in Cheyenne, and they gave me 24 hours to get out of town. I had no place to go. Then I remembered good old Cousin Bay. So I hightailed into Buzzard Band. Well, Bay believed in me, and she talked to Miss Kitty into giving me a job at the saloon. I worked hard for Miss Kitty, and I never borrowed a cent from her. I thought things was going just fine till the day Calhoun showed up. Seems he remembered me from the bar at Cheyenne, and he threatened to tell Miss Kitty all about me. He wanted $500 to keep his mouth shut, the dirty thieving blackmailer. Well, we weren't surprised, or weren't he surprised when I just laughed in his face. I told him, you go on and tell Miss Kitty all about me, and while you're at it, tell Sheriff Lawful all about it too. His face went all pale, just about as white as that suit of his. When I told him that the sheriff was my blood relative, and she and Miss Kitty knew all about my past. I thought I had him licked, but it only took him a minute or two, and he came right back with another rotten scheme. He said he'd convinced Miss Kitty that I'd been tapping the till again and making it look like it was the charges on Calhoun's bill, and that's why she was losing all this money. He said he'd swear on a stack of almanacs that he's seen me take money. Is that wrong?
No, that's
That he'd seen me take my money out of the till and put it in my pocket. He said that her knowing about my past record would make it that much easier for him to convince her that I was up to my old tricks, and he wanted $500 to keep his mouth shut. I didn't know what to do. He said I had 48 hours to come up with the cash. I was going to tell you, babe. I was going to tell you, babe. Honest, I was. I just hoped you'd believe me. Either that or run away again. I hadn't quite decided to tell you the truth, but the next thing I knew, you called this here meeting, and now you tell me he's dead? I know it looks bad for me, but I ain't no murderer. I'd leave town again before I do anything like that. You gotta believe me.
You're the only one
I
who didn't
do.
sleep with him?
Babe?
Yeah, that's why you guys
Or
are all
me.
nasty in my
All
house.
right.
What's your
I'm
name?
here.
Oh, sorry, Kitty, not you.
Okay.
Or babe.
Babe, I just want you to know that blood is blood.
Blood is blood.
Uh-huh, and we will always be family.